Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today, and I've been doing some reading on the Mayans, and I've talked a lot about the Mayans, obviously, with the channel on ancient history, and I have talked a lot about Orion. It is a central theme in mythology of ancient cultures, and I also like to make videos on ancient places that I have not covered yet. So today we're going to combine all three of those, and I'm going to fly you into a site in Guatemala called Utatlán, and these are ancient ruins from the Mayans. And this is what it looks like on Google Earth. Atop this dome-shaped small mountain. But I'm going to come back to this. First, I want to do a little reading. And first of all, this comes from a book called Orion's Cartwheel. And this just explains a little bit of the mythology of Orion and creation and the turtle and the three hearthstones. And this is talking about the twins of Mayan mythology, Hunahpu and Xbalanque. It says, they grew quickly again into adults and woke up three of the old gods, two of whom, an old jaguar in the front and an old stingray in the back, paddled them in a huge canoe to emerge from a crack in the back of a gigantic cosmic turtle. And where was that? It was the place of creation. It was the celestial Ballcourt of the Maya. It was Orion's belt. It says, the paddler gods went on to set up the cosmic version of the traditional Quiche Mayan fireplace, supposedly on August 12, 1314 BC. Orion's Rigel, Safe, and Alnitak were thought to be the three stones of creation that form the equilateral triangle of the cosmic hearth, within which burns the smoking smudge of the Orion Nebula. So that is just a little bit of reading here from that book, and I also want to read a little bit from Graham Hancock's book, Supernatural, Meetings with the Ancient Teachers of Mankind. And I know a lot of you watch Graham Hancock's videos, but reading his books, I highly recommend them. They are full of great information, and I just want to go over this in Supernatural. It says, in ancient Egyptian cosmology, this realm would not be located, and they're talking about the afterlife, or the underworld. It says, in ancient Egyptian cosmology, this realm was not located underground, but in the sky, as are many shamanic netherworlds. Indeed, as Robert Bouval and I have shown in previous books, the Duat was viewed quite specifically as the sky region divided by the Milky Way, lying between the constellations of Orion and Leo. The figure that we call Orion was identified directly with Osiris. The Maya were interested in exactly the same region of the sky and connected it to the similar ideas of afterlife journeys and spiritual rebirth. On a mural in the Temple of the Foliated Cross at the Mayan site of Palenque in Mexico's Chiapas province, we see the Milky Way represented by the maize tree rising from the place of creation near Orion. And that was the crack in the turtle's back. And this is a website I will leave below. It says there is an interesting connection of the dying and resurrecting Maya maize god and his association with the constellation of Orion. The dying and resurrecting Egyptian grain god Osiris is also associated with Orion. Both Osiris and the Maya maize god were ferried in a celestial boat down the river in the sky, the Milky Way, to Orion, where both were resurrected. And going back to Graham Hancock's book here, it says this, it is extremely curious that an identical mystery lies at the heart of the ancient Egyptian royal rebirth cult, in which the deceased pharaoh was cast in the role of Osiris, and the pharaoh-to-be plays the role of Horus, the son who assures his father's rebirth in the spirit world. In Egypt, as amongst the Mayan, the stellar context involves Orion and the Milky Way. In Egypt, as in Mexico, a journey through the netherworld must be undertaken by the deceased. And they talk about the paddler gods, and I have talked about how Mayan mythology has kind of spread out over all of North America. I've shown you Mayan death mask and the three hearthstone fireplace that was found in Minnesota. Well, this is a petroglyph about 350 miles north of Minneapolis, St. Paul, in the boundary waters on the Canadian border. And here you see, in both of those books, they talked about the paddler gods, and I believe This is what is depicted here, the paddler god arriving at the place of creation. This outstretched arm figure represents Orion, and people up in Minnesota say, well, this is just, ancient people depicting themselves paddling across the boundary waters, and they don't realize that they have a celestial tale of the afterlife and rebirth and birth and resurrection depicted up here, way up in northern Minnesota on the Canadian border. I just think that connection kind of proves that wherever this original Mayan knowledge came from was very ancient, and it had time to spread out all over North America. Now here is a website. I'm going to leave this below, but this goes into the Popol Vuh and the whole story of creation as it comes from the Popol Vuh. And this is a very long story, but I find it extremely interesting and very well detailed. And it just kind of sums it up here. The maize gods were reborn from a snake and were nurtured by maturity by women who painted their bodies and dressed them until they were reborn in their former glory. Once revived, the maize gods went on to oversee the current and fourth creation. They woke up the three gods of old who were to play roles in the creation. These gods were called the paddler gods and God El, because we have not yet been able to decipher their true names. The paddler gods transported the maize god twins in a huge canoe that corresponded to the Milky Way until they arrived at the place of creation that we know as the belt of the constellation of Orion. The Maya saw Orion's belt as a huge cosmic turtle. And it says the god Chak cracked open the back of the turtle with a lightning stone. Watered and nurtured by the hero twins, the maize gods grew from the crack in the back of the turtle, which was represented by the Ballcourt. So we have the Mayan paddler gods reaching the place of creation, and you can see on this depiction on the left here from an Egyptian temple, we have Osiris reaching the place of creation, obviously depicted by Orion, and he arrived in a boat. It's the same mythology that is represented, I believe, in Minnesota, with a paddler god arriving at Orion here. I just think that is all interesting when you look at how mythologies are similar throughout the world. And going back to Google Earth here, at Utatlán, you can see that this hill, this dome-shaped hill, to the Mayans, surely, I'm almost positive, represented a turtle, with the crack on the turtle's back being up here, and it was the Ballcourt, and that represented the three belt stars of Orion. And I think that's what we have here on this hill here. The Mayan looked at land features and associated them with their mythology, and that is why Utatlán was built on this hill. It represented the cosmic turtle of creation, and the crack in the back, represented by the Ballcourt, represented the three belt stars of Orion to the Mayans. Let's do a little more reading here. This comes from the Star Gods of the Maya, a book. I will leave the link again for that below. It says, Orion's belt has the brightest group of three stars in the sky. Orion is positioned overhead when it crosses the meridian in the latitudes of Mesoamerica. The three stars are very close to the celestial equator, dividing the sky in two halves. The belt rotates in an interesting fashion, positioned roughly east to west when rising and north to south when setting. It says the importance of Orion in Quiche cosmology is attested to by a number of temples orientated to the setting points of Orion at Utatlán. So here, this author has noticed some of the temples are positioned to depict the setting stars of Orion. And over here, I will leave the link for this book here below too. It says, Utatlán may have been founded on a certain date, and that corresponded with things in the sky. It says, when Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn were in close alignment, and when Orion intersected the Milky Way. These auspicious dates coincide with radiocarbon essays for the initial construction of Utatlán. So, in other words, Utatlán was constructed due to a position of Orion and maybe some other things in the night sky. I find that very interesting. And Utatlán is also called the galactic capital of the Mayans by some. So, once again, Orion, the cosmic turtle, the Ballcourt. I just want to go over to this. This is Monk's Mound in Cahokia, Illinois, and I've stated this before. But once again, I believe Monk's Mound, this earthen pyramid, I believe people have been kind of missing the point here. I believe this is a depiction of the giant cosmic turtle. And here, down here, I believe this is a representation of the turtle's head. And obviously this is fairly, a new walkway that was built, but was it built over a walkway or a path on the original construction that represented the crack in the turtle's back? That is something that I find very interesting. Another thing up in, this comes from Minnesota, a place called Jeffers Petroglyphs, and here we see a turtle depicted with what looks like could be 3 stones on the back of the turtle. Once again, the Mayan mythology is all the way up in Minnesota. And here we have a petroglyph of a turtle with a crack in the back. And where does this come? This comes all the way from Easter Island, one of the most remote places in the world. I find that very interesting. Here are just some pictures of the site at Utatlán. Obviously, they lie in ruins, and I'm not sure how much restoration work has been going on here. But here you see the Ballcourt as the central thing on top of this hill here. But that is just a good look at the ruins at Utatlán. But going back to Google Earth here, we have a place here from the Mayans, Utatlán, that I believe was built upon a large representation of a turtle to the Mayans. That was a place of creation. We have the crack in the turtle's back representing Orion. We have temples up here coordinated with the setting stars of Orion. And I just think this is all very fascinating. It seems this place was built due to Orion's place in the night sky on a certain date. I will leave all these links below. But this is the ancient site of Utatlán. It has a different name I can't pronounce. I'll leave that in the description. But this is located in Guatemala. And I just find the Orion story and the Mayan mythology fascinating, since it seems to have spread in so many different areas because it was a very original knowledge. Hope you thought this was interesting. You have a nice day.